office. Scared straight, more like scared stiff.
You take all your organs out of you. Everything come out of you. Everything. Put them in this bag. You land on a piece of cardboard. That's how your bed is at home? Come on, go.
Walker set out to make a difference by exposing his players to the harsh realities of his job. His message is blunt.
So when it's over with, look, we let them down real slow. But just for y'all, I'm gonna show you just how quick it's over. Bam. What happened after that? That's it.
At least in that one case, quite an impression made on a young man. Let's bring into our discussion Todd Walker. Todd, it's good to have you here. You work with kids. You are a mortician by profession. You've heard the discussion of kids being the best to separate fact from fantasy or fiction, in the case perhaps of video games. What do you think of this discussion that you've heard so far, and the fact that you've got the signature NBA player brandishing a rifle here?
Well, for one, I'm not coming out just target Kobe. I mean, it's the fact that right now, I'm at a funeral right now for a 14-year-old kid whose service is going on as we speak, that was shot accidentally by another football player. So what I'm saying is, what they saying about fiction and all that, it's no fiction where I come from. You know, it's no fiction when you go pick up a 13, 14-year-old kid out of a bloody bag at the coroner's office that's cut from one ear to the other, across his chest, and then you got to go get his family, bring his mother in and walk her down to see his body that's riddled with bullets. So my thing with the Kobe situation is, I'm not pointing out at Kobe, but if a kid see Kobe with a gun, say if another kid go pick up a gun and point it at another kid and say, this is what Kobe Bryant did, what you gonna say then? I mean, in the suburbs, you can get away with a lot of things. You don't see bullets on the ground like this in the suburbs. We live with this every day. So can't nobody tell us nothing about what a game would or wouldn't do. Every funeral home in Oakland right now have a youth, 16, 17, 14, 15-year-old kid in it right now.
Let me ask Bob Thompson, if I could. Thank you, Todd. As far as we see a number of studies, is it a fairly well-settled matter that there's some desensitization to violence on the part of youngsters by constant exposure to video games? Is that a settled matter?
I don't think it is. There are a lot of people who would like you to think that we are what we watch. You watch a lot of violence, you become desensitized to violence. You watch a lot of violence, you become violent. But there is a lot of research that actually shows correlations in the other direction as well. So no, that is not a settled matter. What I think what has happened here is this really isn't about Kobe Bryant. This is about people who don't believe that these kinds of really violent video games should be out there at all. And these ones where you're looking down the barrel of a weapon can be very, very disturbing. But I think we have to separate whether Kobe Bryant is in this commercial or not. I think more of the argument people seem to be making is they don't like these video games, and because Kobe Bryant is in the commercial, they're chastising him. If it's going against these video games in general, we shouldn't just be going, yelling at Kobe. We should be going after the entire industry. And of course, a lot of people have been doing that for many years now.
You can go on one section of the ESPN.com website right now. Darren Williams of the Jazz, Cole Hamels of the Phillies. They stay up all night. Some players playing this very game, Call of Duty. Ahmad Bradshaw, Jeremy Maclin, Dwight Freeney. The testimonies and first-person accounts on these players. It is rated M. Let me ask Adam, what does that mean? If I'm 13, can I buy it if I go to the right retailer?
No, rated M, like you said, it's like rated R. You can't watch it if you're under 17.
Well, now, but retailers aren't bound by that, are they? They have to set their own policy.
Right. But I think the point is that it's such a big, if they're teenagers buying it, most of those kids, they can't afford a $60 video game. It's the same parents who are complaining about the violence of video games who are probably helping them buy those games. So that's another consideration I think isn't really brought up very often.
I actually did some homework on this last night.
Go ahead, David.
I read a review of the literature to see if there is a correlation or causation between playing violent video games and engaging in aggressive behavior. And the bulk of the literature from these empirical studies finds that, as Bob Thompson stated, there is not a causation between playing violent video games and engaging in violent behavior. But most of the studies do show an escalation in aggressive attitudes. So kids, young people who play these games might become more angry, but not take those angry attitudes and put them into action. Now, that does not mean we still don't scrutinize these violent video games like Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto. But we do need to look at the existing literature and take that into account.
Bomani, where in this equation is the sense of, if there is to be any sense of social responsibility? Somebody comes to a prominent athlete who's known to be a gamer, enjoys it. I'm sure there's money changing hands, maybe a not inconsiderable amount of money since the game did $650 million in 5 days. Does an athlete have a responsibility? Should we expect him to have that kind of responsibility and obligation?
Well, it's tricky on this one to expect the responsibility to come up because the game is so mainstream. Like, I had no idea they sold that many copies of that video game and made that much money. I mean, that is much closer toward the median of preferences in the market than I think a lot of people would care to admit. So for Kobe Bryant, I don't even know if it becomes an issue of social responsibility because this is what people see as being normal. It's not my cup of tea, but this is what people are into. And for him, it's just, this is the coolest thing that Kobe Bryant has ever done as a professional athlete. And it's interesting that that's shooting a rifle in a video game commercial.
And Sundance, this entire discussion, the past 20 minutes on this program, has done what for this game?
Well, I think what it's actually done is it's just brought attention to the fact that they had an effective marketing campaign. I mean, the thing that I would ask all parents who have an issue with violence in video games or people who are dealing with real violence in their lives where they live is focus the attention rather than on an entertainment platform, but on gun control. If guns weren't so readily accessible, that would solve the issues that a lot of us have to deal with. Because entertainment is the release. Entertainment is the place that we go to escape the realities of the day. So what's next? Books, music, movies. We've complained about all these things, but we need to realize that, it's a First Amendment, a trial going on right now about whether or not video games are protected. The fact of it is that it is mainstream. Whether or not it's your cup of tea or not, it's mainstream and it's part of our lives. What shouldn't be a part of our lives is real-world gun violence, and I still don't believe that this commercial is pushing that in people's faces and saying, hey, this is cool. What it is it's a fantasy message about entertainment.
30 seconds, Bomani, quickly.
Right. Yeah, but whose fantasy is killing people? Like, I watched my buddy play this game a couple of days ago, and I was enraptured watching him stick a knife in somebody's neck while he was sleeping. I mean, and that's not particular to the video games, but that's a real question.
At 5 years old, kids go out and can get army men. They have war heroes or something that are part of every culture.
But who said that was cool? I'm not talking about those things. I'm about right now. I've watched that game. I've seen people play it. If that's your fantasy, me, myself, personally, I fantasize about other things.
Commercials continue and the units keep moving, gentlemen. That's where we're going to have to sit it down because the clock rules, unfortunately. Robert Thompson, Sundance DiGiovanni, Bomani Jones, Adam Fussfeld, David Mayeda, Todd Walker. Thanks so much.